Step into the mystical Life After Death Festival 2025. A wizard stands under a glowing London night sky. A swirling portal opens behind him. Greetings, seekers of sound and wonder. Prepare to journey beyond the veil. I am here to reveal the musical spellcasters who will awaken your soul at the Life After Death Festival this February 2025 in London. The wizard waves his wand, revealing electrifying artist names in beams of light. Behold the wizards of rhythm, the sorcerers of melody. From legendary headliners to otherworldly newcomers, this lineup will rend the heavens and shake the earth. Prepare for sounds so magical, they'll haunt you forever. Visual snapshots of mystical stage designs and swirling lights. Feel the pulse of a mystical realm where fantasy meets electrifying beats. Let the neon mist and spellbinding visuals pull you into an unforgettable odyssey, a celebration of life, music, and the unknown. The wizard extends an invitation, surrounded by ethereal lights. It's more than a festival, it's an awakening. Will you dare to cross into this enchanted dimension? Join us, February 2025, and find out what lies after. Tickets vanish faster than stardust. Don't miss your chance to live the magic. Follow the path woven below. Grab your tickets and prepare to dance between worlds. This is your destiny. Will you seize it?
Like usual, the first few seconds. Here we go. We're live. Charlie, how are you, my dear friend?
Good. Yes, happy to be back. Nice to see you again.
I looked at the last video. Can you believe it's 3 years ago?
Yeah, my osteopath said the same thing today. I don't. I don't know what's happened. The last few years just disappeared.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane. We're getting so freaking old.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're back. This is volume 3 of White Filth versus the Crypt, or whatever these videos are called. How have you been doing?
Good. Yeah, really good. It's been a busy last year. I can't go back 3 years, but the 2024 has been really busy. I think it dawned on me that it's 8 years that Crypt has existed now. So that's in itself, it's kind of like getting to be fairly old. I guess it's hard to break it down in my mind. I don't know where the lines are, but Crypt 1 and Crypt 2, if you like, almost half and half now, I think. 4 years and 4 years. I think that's got to be about right. COVID, fucked it all and whatever. But yeah, the last year has been the busiest year so far. So we've got a lot of momentum. There's been quite a lot of changes, I guess, since last time we spoke, for sure, in the way things run and things work, and hopefully getting better all the time. And hopefully the customers feel these important structural changes. We've got like a big warehouse now and stuff like that, which we're operating out of for the label, because the label is slowly becoming my full-time job, and the shop is kind of being run by minions and acolytes. Yeah, so that's I've handed over a lot of the shipping, which is unreal, because like for the last 5 years, every single day I have been shipping and packing orders all day, every day, and then running everything else around the edges. So I'm focused really on the label and of course on the festival, which started last year as well. So my focus has changed a bit, but it's great. It's been a really, really killer year, so I'm happy.
So it's more logistics than shopkeep for now.
A little bit, but also I get to do like think about the future and bigger ideas, and like focus on merch and label releases. So it's label stuff is less logistical and more just engaging with artists and getting to do creative stuff and traveling more, and to go and see bands and do launches and all sorts of stuff we got planned for 2025 as well. So we'll see. And then The festival stuff there's logistics for sure, but then there's the event and the build up. So I tend to still focus more on the creative stuff because that's where my skill set lies, other than being organized and doing logistics. And I've got very helpful people to do that sort of stuff as well. So yeah, we've got a good little crew together now. So I feel like Crypt is it feels like it's less me now and more like
Yeah,
a little gang of people, and that's great.
I think in my opinion, or how I can follow the trajectory of the Crypt is 1, 2, and then we're now in phase 3, where you say it's since the festival, it's more about the label where the focus is at, because the store is a store and will forever be the store, but it's not going to go anywhere because we're maxed out the capacity of what a store can be, I guess.
Kind of. I mean, it's funny because our store is small, for sure, and I don't know. We get to the point where there's so many records in the store. I'm like, I don't, I don't know what to do anymore. They start spilling out to the floor, and it starts turning into one of those eccentric shops that I've always loved, but drive me a bit crazy because I remember there was like a bookshop I used to like in Paris, and they didn't have shelves; there were just stacks of books everywhere, and it was tiny. It was like half the size of my store even, and you had to go in there and talk to the dude, and he would smoke all the time, and he would talk to you about books, and eventually be like, oh, I'd like a copy of that. And he'd be like, come back on Wednesday, and you'd go back and he would have rearranged the shop, and I loved that place. But I mean, it's infuriating because you'd go in and be like, this place is full of good stuff and I can't get to any of it, and I don't want it to be too much like that. But right, because we have the recording studio downstairs, Holy Mountain, where so many bands are recording, I wouldn't want to move from our spot because we have such a great relationship with bands coming through the shop and into the studio and vice versa. And Misha and Stan, who run the studio, are both incredible. And obviously, like Vacuous recorded their album down there with Stan engineering it, and then we're doing this special edition with Relapse in the shop. It's like these sort of relationships happen so much because of that proximity. So I could like go and rent a bigger shop, but I'd lose so much. So I think we like the little crypt, and you know
Location, location, location.
there's 3 of us working in there today as well. Customers come in, they're like, where the fuck do I go? But yeah, I'm building a little office in the basement for myself so I can hide down there. So yeah, but no, it's cool. But you're right, yeah, it's kind of maxed out, but that's what it will always be. And obviously there's still a lot of focus on getting new releases in from labels that no one's ever heard of. We just did a thing with this label, oh shit, Relics of the Eternal City. I don't know if you've come across them.
I have to admit that the newer stuff of the real small releases kind of escaped me because I switched off a bit, just because it became too much. But yeah,
Oh no, fucking poser. Anyway, I mean they're like a little dungeon synth label from the US somewhere, and I said to him, "Oh, your releases look really cool. Could we wholesale some?" And he said, "Ah, but we only do 5 copies of each release." And I was like, "Well, make 10, and I'll have half of them." So that's what we're doing basically. So stuff like that still I love doing still. It makes me happy. So we're still getting in loads of stuff, and then your Blood and Crescents, and obviously we've got a real connection with Phantom Lure now. We're trying to work more with Out Season and those labels. Internet's Chaos, who we love. Ixiol, who we love, and we've lost a few great labels that we used to work with a lot, like Night Rhythms, who have called it a day, which is annoying because then like I have to make new friends to get these deals going again. But it's cool, and so that's still very very much happening. I'm still very much a big part of that. But Russell, who you've met, who is quite a legend in his own right, is a big part of that as well, and he's a big death metal fan. So he deals with all that stuff that I don't really fully understand, which is good. And then Sophie is looking more at heavy metal, which I go in and out of, you know. So it's really good to have someone who's a bit more into that. She's also really into like thrash and you know, that kind of stuff that sometimes escapes me. So a lot of doom. So we're kind of covering more bases and trying to do it well. But yeah, I don't think I'm answering a question now. I'm just talking. But that's the sort of shop dynamic. Then
Mhm.
you know, but the label is you know, obviously, like I play everything to the guys, and we talk about everything a bit. But fundamentally, I'm sort of that's my part of it, really.
Okay, so every person curates for the shop their part of the musical spectrum, like you said. So if he
Yeah,
does that,
kind of. It's getting that way.
oh,
Sorry, I talked over you. I missed that last bit.
no, it's okay. I was thinking about we can go a few places. I don't want to go down memory lane immediately, like talk about the festival. I was going to do maybe highlight a few releases first of 2024 because there's been a few. We have been playing the Kudwig, I think that's how we pronounce it, from last year, the Dwindling Spirit Crusher. But counting quickly, you have 11 releases for 2024, I guess, and
Yeah.
then about two coming up that are kind of announced, kind of not announced. Let's just dive into 2024 for now.
Okay.
The first one is the Dibgus with the
The
self-titled
Pygus.
the Pygus. I was dreading to pronounce it. I'll let you pronounce it for now. I have to say they're an older band, but they completely snuck under my radar. It's just because of the artwork and that they are on the Crypt that they were in my world or came into my world. Is it the third full length?
Yes, I believe so. I They put a record out on Expansion Abyss, which is a label I've always liked a lot, called Bushmeat, I believe. And what was cool was Expansion Abyss sent a postcard out to loads of stores and stuff. It was like a real nice postcard, but the imagery was all grim and in that Depigus way, and calling for wholesale. And because I'm an idiot and slow, I just forgot to reply to it, and I still don't have a copy of that record. And I think Expansion Abyss might have one for me, but um, it was so good, and it's not really my thing. That impetigo kind of like grisly kind of stuff, or it's not. Let's say it's not something I know a lot about. It's not something I've had loads of exposure to, because I always say this. You know, I got into metal through like Iron Maiden, then Mayhem or whatever, right? Like I went down that route, and I kind of skipped the whole death metal thing that a lot of people from my generation got in through. I've come to it later, but especially the kind of more knuckle draggy downstream stuff, because it hits you on a visceral level. It's stupid. It's not like people doing maths on guitar or whatever. So I I'm an idiot. I get it. Like it works for me. So the Tigers just hit like in the most incredible way. That record was excellent. And then I believe there was one before it or one after. I forget the exact order of things. And then through Joe from Vacuous, he was speaking to Expansion Abyss, and he said that the Tigers were looking for a label for the new album, and he just wrote to them saying, "Oh, Charlie's like a huge fan." Because we talked about them so much. So just hit them up, and so it just fell into place, and they were fantastic. They handle all the artwork stuff. They've got all that kind of covered. The guy who does did the painting, he has like a YouTube channel or a Instagram or whatever called Six Sad Slice, I think. He makes these like old school VHS like horror monster movies with bands playing in them and stuff. Like a kind of like a, it reminds me of like all those uh what do they call them? Those like free TV channel, like neighborhood TV channels they used to have in New York in the 90s or whatever. Killer stuff. So they've got like a real nice people around them. They've got like a really great aesthetic, and I just love the way they sound. So it was a no-brainer, really. And that's a pretty big record for us because they're pretty established and stuff. So it was a big pressing, and we did some nice different editions and stuff like that. And I was really pleased with that record. It was a great start to to 2024. It was quite early in the year, I think. So it that was great. Yeah, I like that one. What's next?
Are they the one that have a dinosaur on the cover too with one of the albums? Or I'm
Yeah. They got dinosaurs and cavemen and stuff. They're all into that stuff.
That's kind of why I skipped in the first place, I think, because I saw the dinosaur record everywhere, and I was like, yeah, don't judge a book by its cover, I think. But yeah, the sound is like you said, it's kind of that dry impetigo sound that that rotten death metal sound. Great start to the year. The next one was the Riders of Rohan, which is yeah. I don't want to go into the festival immediately, but for me, they are a live band over a record band.
I mean, why not both?
Why not both? Yeah, I know. Why not both? Because they blew me away at the festival. I didn't know I needed to see a Lord of the Rings worshipping heavy metal band with 3 vocalists and everybody doing what they're doing on stage. So yeah, it was one of the better shows. My nephew who was with me, he was completely hooked. He's #1 fan right now.
I don't know, man. My daughter was doing the Smoke Machine, and she's pretty into them as well. They were also they're the band that got to stay at the house during the festival. They stayed with us. So my daughter's are big fans of Riders. But no, Riders are incredible. They came just fully formed. Like I've known Stickan from Riders, who plays guitar. For years, like through social circles in Sweden, because I've always attended and then worked at Muska Rock Festival. It's a big part of my year every year, and I knew Stickan through the sort of circles, kind of in the. She's in a band called Nightmare. Nightmare. It's a play on words. It means like night horse, but also night. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so no stick out through that, and then I can't quite remember the order of things exactly, but I think maybe Jacob, who runs Muska Rock, had said they were playing the festival or something like that. They were playing Muska Rock and whatever, and I was like, who are this band? I recognize Stickan, so I wrote to Stickan and said, this looks incredible, because it was just a picture of them in the green cheers. Cape Riders of Rohan capes, and I was like, let me hear it. Do you have anything recorded? And Stickhound's like, well, we've recorded a whole album, but we just did it for ourselves. I don't think anyone wants it. And I was like, send it to me. So they sent me the demos first, because I think it was still being mixed, the album. And I was so hooked on the demos. I listened to it like just on loop over and over and over again. And then they sent me the mixes of the album, and I had that thing for a second that people do or don't understand, but like I was already addicted to the demos, and now it's the same songs but different. And I just was like, maybe we should put the demos out because it's rawer and dumber. Maybe we should do that sometime on tape or something. But then I got addicted to the album mixes, and I couldn't stop. So I sent it off to press. I was starting to use a new pressing plant. I didn't have a lot of spare cash at the time, so I did it cheap. Like I did plain black records, sleeve, no insert, like nothing. I was like, it's the cheapest I can do this. And the cover art, sorry, this is a long one because I love this story, but the cover art is from this. They used to do these like RPG game books for Lord of the Rings in Sweden called MERP, Middle Earth Role Playing, and they were really popular in Sweden. I didn't know anything about them. I'm not the biggest Tolkien. I love it, but like there's a lot of people who love that shit. I like it. It's good.
There's loving
But,
it. Loving it.
and a lot of it I've learned about because of the band, because I've wanted to understand the lyrics actually. So I've ended up reading the Silmarillion and all that stuff now just to understand the lyrics better. But so these role play books and the art, people have loved the artwork on these books. The covers were like these full color paintings, and they were really vivid. And the guy who painted the one for have you got it to hand? Yeah. I've forgotten his name. It's just escaped me. But those album covers, he painted them. So he I was trying to get
Right. Sorry, but since we're nerding out, Angus McBride.
Angus McBride. So I was trying to contact them to get the rights to use them, and it was just unfindable. Ice, or who made the Merc books, have gone out of business, and whatever, the people who bought them don't have the rights anymore. So I spoke to his daughter actually, and tried to get. And basically, everyone said no one has the rights. They're in purgatory, so it's basically impossible to license his work. So that means they've never been printed again, which is really sad. But eventually, so after all this stuff, I found this one person who actually was able to give me permission, and we sorted out a deal and whatever.
Oh.
So it was like, it went on for ages, and I finally got it sorted. I was so happy. And so in some ways it's amazing because those artworks haven't been printed, and his daughter was really happy about it, and I've sent people copies and stuff. And so I was really, so the covers are beautiful as well, and nostalgic for a lot of people. And then we've got your Adventure Rock little logo, which is filing the band in a line of like very good Swedish bands playing that kind of. It sets a sort of genre for what they do, which is a bit hard to pin down. And I was like, okay, so we're going to sell one copy to me, and then no one else wants this, and it flew. I mean, people loved that record, and it went to Germany a lot because records like that do find an audience in Germany, which, God bless them. And then quite quickly, I guess the EP, was it the same year?
No, I think I have to cheat because
Oh, that is the EP. Sorry, I'm talking about the album.
Red one.
So okay, so I'm a year behind because I'm actually talking about the album. But then okay, so quite quickly followed up with the EP, and the EP like it's just taken everything that was good about the album and just refined it and made it just that much more beautiful. And every well, not every, but both records they've done so far have had a cover on them. And the first had Black Diamond by Kiss, but it was changed to Black Rider, and all the lyrics are changed to be about Lord of the Rings. And then this time they did Cowboy Song by Thin Lizzy, but they made it Ranger Song. And listen, I think it's better than the Thin Lizzy version. You heard it here first. I love it so much. Tim's vocals on that, just phenomenal. So yeah, the dynamic of the three of them, they've been, Lisa and Stickan are sisters. Tim was their friend since high school. So those three have got this like absolute bonded dynamic. They've all played in bands together and stuff. And this was just their fun little silly project, and it is just incredible what they're doing. So they're the nicest people, nicest band to work with. Fantastic live, fantastic on record. So everyone has to keep buying them so we can do more.
Yeah, the record is still growing on me, but like I said, they blew me away live. It was just the right setting, but we'll talk about it later.
It's hard. It's not for everyone. It's not for everyone. But if you like kind of hard rock and heavy metal and Lord of the Rings, you're doing good. But I always say it sounds like the B-52s trying to sound like Iron Maiden or something. It's like, it's odd.
There's a lot in there. I even hear some glam in there here and there. There's some Bowie. Sure. Like today on Radio Song, I even heard Lou Reed here and there. So there's a lot. What struck me, I was at work listening to the releases today, and on the last track, the Giving Up the West, I think, they from Golden to Numenor, and I was like, yes, just at my work table. Yeah, incredible releases. That, like you said, they are very pleased, I guess, about the covers too. Was it their idea or your idea?
Oh yeah, it's all them. They don't need me.
That's actually good. All right. I'm not going to do them all, or are we going to skip a few maybe? But I mean,
I'll talk less about some of them, but I like them just as much. Don't get me wrong, but I don't have to talk forever.
I written down because I have like this my cheat sheets. I written down that 2024 was not only colorful when you look at the Bandcamp for Crypt of the Wizard. There's a lot of color in those covers, but every record has this sort of adventurous feel to them. It's not when they, for example, if there's a Dungeon Sin tape in here, but it's not just Dungeon Sins. It's everything in between. So all these records have something, I don't know, something adventurous, and it starts maybe with the Riders of Rohan, pure adventure that is that journey. But it's kind of a theme throughout all of the 11 records, in my opinion. Maybe it will show up later.
I like that.
The next one is this piece. This one was a exclusive, not exclusive, but was released at the festival, the first one, and it's called Ich bin Sister Bomb, something like that. Good.
Hold on. Rudin Sisterbun is the best I'm gonna get.
There you go. Smoke
I
your
got
glass.
told off for saying it too gutturally by Jesper, because I was saying which you're not supposed to do. So you got to do it with the hot potatoes in the back of your throat in the Danish way. So it's a Rudin Sisterbun.
It is. That's the one I was looking forward to the most at the first festival, just because I am a big sucker for the Mayhem, the Gobstock, the entire Danish stuff, everything they were doing. So this and Gobstock were the my first and seconds I needed to see at the festival. This records, I mean, from the first riff, it's just maniacal how good this thing, how good. They have been playing for quite a while, but this was the first output they released onto the world. Yeah, it's an insane riff, and it just keeps on going. There are 2 longer tracks, but they kind of feel like 2 or 3 tracks on the A side, on the B sides. Yeah, it's the first Crypt 100s record.
Yeah.
I'll show them. What can you tell?
I mean, for the Crypt 100s, I had this idea that a lot of what we love at Crypt is the shit that's too weird to exist, really. And vinyl is still my primary format. I make some exceptions, but that's where I want everything really on vinyl. That's when it feels real to me. So we thought we'll do some handmade. So they're like these eco press where you don't know what color you're gonna get. They are black labels that we've stickered, real hand numbered, cheap inserts, like everything just done as cheaply as possible, basically, while still pressing a nice record that sounds good. Just to get them out in the world and just like do 100 copies and that's it, it's done. And make it kind of special. So that was the idea, was that we could just cherry pick just weird shit from all over that really I'm not going to sell 200, 500, 1,000 copies of. It's hard though, because a lot of the stuff I release is like that anyway. And choosing which would fall in which category is tricky. So this one's felt right for it as well, because listen, Gabestock are like my platonic idea of what a cool band is. They are the best band. I love them so much, and they're super cool dudes. And I've been slowly sort of getting to know those guys over the years, and I'm doing more and more stuff with Mayhem and that crowd, because we all just get on well. And they from those original days where they were like these little angry teenagers, whatever, all making black metal, they've all sort of just gone in all these different directions, and they're all doing something interesting. Like the flawless like group of creative people. So I've got ultimate respect for that crowd. But yeah, so I went out to Mayhem for Gabestock Y2K. They're doing like a big show every year or whatever, where they like, it's themed. There was Gabestock 9/11, which unfortunately I missed, but Gabestock Y2K was unreal, and I think like 8, 9 bands played. If you ever go to Mayhem, because the Danes will smoke inside, by the 9th band your eyes are like red. You're not used to it if you're like in a smoke-free country, but it's worth it. Mayhem's sick. Everything's broken. They use the same like bass amp like this big for 9 bands. So when Gabestock finally played, the bass went, and Jesper's keyboard that they've used for every Gabestock concert, whatever, broke. So they ended up just playing as a 2-piece. No problem. Just still fucking good. So fucking good. Every time I see them, they're incredible. So, but one of the sport bands was Ridden System on, and Jesper said to me, "Hey, like, make sure you watch. I think you're gonna like it." I'm just pausing because I might have made that up. I'm going to tell the story again and see. We'll work out which one was the truth. They didn't play, but Jesper said to me, "Oh, that guy Zimmer, who's playing in a different band, I forget what they were called. Him and Gabestock have another band called Rudensisterbund, and they're great. So one of those two things.
Long-
Zimmer with the long hair, yeah. One of those two versions of events is true.
Choose your own.
And I said I wouldn't talk as much about these other ones, but man, the best thing about these big gigs at Mayhem as well is if you're a VIP like me, you get invited to turn up at like 5 o'clock and they feed you first with like Danish meatballs and all this stuff. That was killer. I didn't think about food again for like another day. And we, yeah, so anyway, you know, my ears are always pricked for stuff like this. You know, I always get super excited, sometimes too much, about what this new unearthed music. And they said it's this stuff we recorded years ago, and then we've just done some overdubs to kind of fix it. And they sent it to me, and I was just totally blown away. It's like everything that's great about Gavestock, but just slower, more drawn out and psychedelic and doomy and odd, and the twin vocals. My favorite was that comment on YouTube that just said, wow, great female singer. And I wrote back saying it's actually two Danish men. But it's like, yeah. Just those like, yeah, Diamond King like vocals, the two of them.
Diamond King, like we said.
And yeah, it just blew me away. And then again, you know, we're not talking about the festival, but then they played the festival. They every time I've seen them live, I was out with them in for this festival in Aarhus recently, which was they played on a huge stage, and they were playing with like some pretty big bands. This mixed bill festival with like Lee Gamble and Lankum side project, One Leg, One Eye, or One Head, or something like that. And it was great watching a kind of more straight crowd watching them, like, you know. But for me, it's like the true spirit of bedroom metal, like just alive. They are incredible. So I think it was a great fit for the 100s. It could just have equally been a bigger release, but I think it's suited because it was kind of this dusted off ancient thing that apparently like those guys had all been sharing with all the friends have got like tape dubs or MP3s, so to actually finally make it a real thing, I think it worked. They are writing more music and they will be recording more music, so next release will be a full release because that will be an intentional thing. It'll be for an album. So
Yeah, I think they're. I think when you keep listening to it, I sometimes wish I could listen to everything at once. You know, every piece of music I own at once, and I know that's not possible. But in this case, it kind of does. It kind of feels like it took everything I like and just smashed it into one record.
that's it. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. I'm keeping an eye on the time a bit because we'll be here forever like usual, but I'm going to skip a few and then
How dare you?
sequel.
At least mention them, and I won't say anything.
I skipped a few because I have to make a confession. The first one is Hellish Torment, a tape that was released also for the festival, I think.
I mean, they're great. There's a great story to tell, but I won't because I shouldn't. So that was great. Cool tape. Recorded in the studio downstairs. Stan made it all sound great. Killer.
I was looking at the roster again for the festival, and that's the only band I don't remember nothing about them. It's
very
weird.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. That's why I didn't want to talk about them. The second one I was going to skip is the Bastard Mycosis, a more of a death metal affair with people
Adventurous side project.
Yes.
Fucking just ridiculous kind of Danish worship, but for those other Danish, you know, like the Extremely Rotten Productions, but just just tuned down to, I mean, ridiculous levels. It's fucking killer. But more from them later. That was like a little taster, and they're playing the next fest. So
yes, they have Vaticinal Rights, I think, is one of the side projects too that is mixed up in that band, and I kind of like the sound. It's like you said, that dry Danish underground sound, but the vocals are so clean you can understand, and I think it's the point you can understand everything, every little nuance in those lyrics.
Yeah. The vocals are the best part of it. Yeah.
Then we have Sequel Kingdom with the Perdition's Gates Demo 1. And that
Coffin
is
Mulch side project, kind of like black and dungeon synthy. Very cool. Yeah, looking forward to more from them. But that was just one that I couldn't say no to.
Also with a serious death metal influence, I think, especially in the vocals. There is some black metal, especially in the latter half of the tape. But yeah,
I owe that band like an enormous public apology because I fucked up the title on the tape. I put the word oath in there somewhere where it didn't belong at all, and we didn't manage to resolve it quickly enough. So I owe them a huge apology because that release is wicked and it deserved better treatment. So I learned from my mistakes, but I apologize desperately to Al for that. I'm really sorry, and we'll make it better in the future.
The best records have writing mistakes on them, from Motorheads to Battery. So they're in.
I agree, but you know, you try to not do that, but there you are.
That's true. The one that I wanted to highlight is the next in the Crypt of the Wizard 100 is the Drell Knock with Anthropocene.
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 It's like the world after the end of the world. Yeah.
Yeah. A project with a guy you are very fond about, I think, or very fond of, Lord Bill, the drummer for many. I think this is not his first outing, but you can search sound-wise. You can search for it in the kind of more feral hearts, old one gash, country, you know, that Americana sound that has prevailed in some of the US releases. I think it's an extraordinary record, actually. I haven't looked into all of his material or whatever he's doing. I know he's doing a lot with UE from Nachtlich. But this one kind of grabbed me, especially in the last few weeks since I've been checking it. Yeah. Why did you choose this for the next one as the...
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, again, like, part of me was just trying to crowbar my way into Lord Bill's world. I think I'm just totally fascinated with him and what he's been doing with his label Moon Worshipper. I mean, it's just one of those labels that it's almost designed just for me, in that it kind of touches my obvious likes and then perverts them and gives me things I'm not expecting. And aesthetically, I think it's all been brilliant. And the range of stuff is wild, from sort of like odd solo saxophone noise music to another great project I found through that, A Stranger Leads the Dance, who played the festival, who's going to be playing again. He's one of the very few people who are coming back, just because I really thought more people deserve to see what he does, which is, you know, the area of dungeon synth that I am most interested in personally, being that I was there the first time. And a lot of, I think, what's happening again is great, but it's a bit repetitive for me. I've heard a lot of that stuff before, and I mean, the shop's called Crypt of the Wizard, for fuck's sake. Like, I know dungeon synth history, and I think it's all good and well. I think there's a great audience for it. In fact, I've been noticing at the dungeon synth shows here, I think dungeon synth is the new Doom. It's the same kind of dudes who were going to Doom shows 5-10 years ago, who are now coming to dungeon synth, and I think it's really good because it brings in people who are not coming in it through traditional. It's like what Sun O did for metal 20 years ago, where like all these people suddenly turned up like, oh, what's this metal stuff? And they got in through that. They're not pure bloods like me who got in through Iron Maiden, the correct way, through Priest and Maiden, but whatever, I accept them. But so I think it's bringing in a lot of people, whatever. But that, like, those synthy vistas and stuff, I dig it. But what I really like is seeing these bands who are kind of like these little weeds in that world, who are then just growing up in their own weird directions. Strangely, is the dance, live drums and synths and stuff, killer. Flickers from the Fan, again, like they start off making RuneScape fan music, and we put on their first ever show at Life After Death, and they were like turned up with a full band with a brass section, and they've gone off in their own direction. And then back to Lord Bill, lots of his projects like Thalid that he does with the Nachtlich dude, it's like dungeon synth for true perverted weirdos. Like, it's just that record blew me away, and it could have easily have been that, but you know, Poisonous Sorcery there. I think sometimes, like, especially a couple of years ago, I still was reacting to stuff like a shop, like, oh, how can I get these copies? Like first you act like a customer, you're like, I would like one of those. And then you act like a shop where you're like, I need 10 of those. And then you're like a label and you're like, I need to release that. So you've got to kind of keep changing your instincts and positions. And I think sometimes my instincts were still shopkeeper instincts. So it took me a while, but then that Drill Knock record just touched me in a special place, I think. And I love the themes of it, like this, like the life after life, right? Like um the Anthropocene is like something I find fascinating. So I was interested that he started from that position and then making, like you say, this sort of raw punky kind of black metal from that kind of, yeah, like American kind of sound, like Old Gush or whatever, and then maybe somewhere in between that and um Curtain Wall and that kind of stuff, you know. What's his name? My mind's gone blank. But all that Grimstone production stuff, in terms of its sort of almost like electronic-y kind of like harshness. And I don't know, I just thought it was a great project, and he was putting out this like very cool art for the flyers and stuff like that. And then the cover was just this sort of simple painting, which I thought was sick. But I thought, "Ah, if we do this as a vinyl, we can like really max out the art." And he was sending me all these pictures of dead fish and stuff. So we made this like wild collage. I had so much fun. I was on holiday with my family, sitting on my laptop making these collages with dead fish.
That's the
But
Blood Tower, I believe, right? Just to keep it clear.
oh shit, I leaped to the Blood Tower one. Sorry, we're on. All right, we're still on Dronok.
It's a
Fuck
good
me,
one.
man. Listen, it's
It's a
been a
good
long day. I'm drinking water. You got the beer.
I'll keep it clear, heads.
Yeah,
No, the Blood Tower is the more dungeons in the Drellnock.
that's later. But so the Dronok one, that was the 100. So in terms of the sound, it's everything I was describing. I was just describing the wrong cover for some stupid reason. No, the cover was that great painting, and you know we sort of oddly ended up with this format for the hundreds that just kind of has fallen into place. So we did this cropped version of the painting. Yeah, very cool. Love it. Love it. And again, the eco vinyl fit the theme really well, and yeah, just totally fell into place, that one. And it was like the hundreds thing. It doesn't have a hard and fast concept, but it was another thing where it was like, I don't know quite who this is for or who wants it or whether we can do it justice, but let's give it a go. And I think the hundreds is good for that, of just like shoving something into the world and seeing what happens. And for both of them, they've gone now. We don't have any left. So
Oh,
I found that, I think so. There may be one or two floating around, but you know, if I can find 100 weirdos who want that stuff, I'm happy. So check the website. There might be some left, but not. We're definitely down to the end. But yeah, so again, it's like, how do you encounter a label like Moonworshiper and say this one or that one? I don't fucking know. And also, like, he's building up a mad head of steam now, so he's started releasing vinyl and stuff like that. So I gotta get myself in there before there's no room, because he's going to be a mega label soon. I just got endless appreciation, and working with him was a joy. So
yeah, the label is firing up because they have announced, I think, 2 new talent records: Eternal Spiritual Conquest and I Probably March into Oblivion. So I guess 2 new pullings or 2 EPs.
I did ask to release them, but I was too slow.
He's going to do it himself, I think. Yeah, it's weird. It's not weird. It's just to also find out he's a drummer for BIP, for example.
Yeah,
it's another band that is in my collection that blows my mind. Yeah,
sure.
there's a lot of punk black metal going around, but he does something, I think, still not new or not refreshing, but it's just the mix of all those things come to a very unique record that does storm sounds, blown out drums, bell hits off the wall, but it is a raw black metal record, but you can hear everything perfect. It's just turned up
Yeah.
to the right decibels or whatever. So,
I mean, I think you describe it way better than I do. I don't know. It was sometimes I can't really. Sometimes I really cannot talk about music. I'm just like, I don't know. I like it. It really it sounds good to me. It has to surpass any intellectual engagement for me. I think other people engage really well, and I see some other labels who are really laser focused on certain ideas and sounds, and I really respect them for being able to do that. Um, with me, I think it comes from somewhere else. It's like that there's very few intellectual decisions I make about the label. It's much more like a sense of urgency around something that I just feel like I have to be involved in. And much more of a gut feeling. Uh,
I kind of like that the label evolved actually from the shop. The fact that you have these tastes put into the shop, and then, like you said, love music, need to have the records, need to have it in the store, need to have it. I think that's a perfect way to start the label. Actually, I've put on Moon Blood Tower. I'm sorry, not Moon, but Blood Tower now. It is another Lord Bill project, but it's more his, like you said, weird ass dungeon synth. I'll show the fish cover. There we go.
Look at that.
If you read the description, it is one of the more overblown descriptions, in my opinion, of a record.
I don't remember what it said. I'm going to read it.
It is it's like very horrific and very very horror themed. It's
I was
very
on holiday when I wrote it.
sorry.
I was on holiday when I wrote it. That's why.
It's not bad, but I was expecting a very very dark evil record, and it's actually more beautiful than what the description is. There's a lot of Foley horror soundtracky things going on, but I was thinking more of a Erified Catacomb sounds. That
Right.
was, yeah, it is more beautiful than Erified Catacomb.
Yeah, it's got danceable tracks on it as well, for sure. If a jig is your dance of choice, but yeah, again, it was like one of those records where first off, I didn't understand why no one else was releasing it. I mean that's happened to me a couple of times where I'm like, I'll do it. Why is no one else doing this? I feel like um incredulous, because I mean, like I say, I think his talent is abundant, and the Blood Tower stuff for me, again, it's like the absolute best of dungeon synth right now. It's like people have taken that genre, which is very easy to replicate. There's 10,000 people right now making it at home, making sounds. This is again, well, it reminds me of Doom, because like when there was that big blow up of especially American Doom bands, and I'd hear it and think, God, I bet this is fun to play. But for me, listening, not so fun, right? Because you're boring the shit out of me, you know? And I think a lot of Dungeons Synth, it sounds mean, but a lot of Dungeons Synth is like that. But there's so much really, truly good stuff. And for me, that is like the absolute best of what's happening right now. And so I was just excited to be a part of it, you know. And then go on.
It's a genre that is open for grabs, because there has been, you said, the rich tradition of Mortis and going on into the all over the 90s, but there is so much left to do, in the sense that there are you can pull from so many genres to make something really unique. And I think this is unique. It is danceable in a weird way. So that's why I think the description was a bit too eerie for what it is. But
Maybe, yeah, new wave of danceable dungeon synth. That's what's up.
Something like that. What else is danceable? We skipped one, which is the Hail Conjurer, this satanic phenomenology. Once again, very good records. I think what he is doing in the entire adventurous thought process I had going on is, but it's just another Hail Conjurer record. I don't hear the evolution in his sounds. I don't think maybe that's per se necessary. But it's also because there has been a lot of records from him, so I haven't kept up all the way. I think I have all the white ones, but there's a lot happening with them.
It's tough. I think there's a lot of subtle shifts, but I think there's a core sound, and it's something I just can't get enough of. Like the first Hell Conjurer record completely rocked my world. It was like a sound that I just don't think really quite existed until he came along and made it happen. And it was very special to me, that first record. And I tried to put that out
Okay.
way back then. And I wasn't quite poised to do it, and whatever. So some years later, we've worked together with some live shows and stuff like that. I had the privilege of releasing a record by him, and then, you know, every 6 months he's like, I got a new one. And they're always as good as the last one, which in my opinion is excellent. I think he's way underappreciated. He's so good live, and he gets up there and does the whole thing on his own, and he rolls with the punches. I mean, I've put him in some pretty crappy rooms with not much good equipment. He doesn't bat an eyelid, just gets on with it. And he was telling me that he hyperventilated at a show the other day and just completely passed out on stage. Got up and kept going. The amps broke at one show recently, so he just got behind the drum kit and played the drums with his MIDI track in the background and just sung. He's punk, you know what I mean? Like he has a great attitude towards it all, and I just think if the world was just and fair, he'd be one of the biggest black metal artists right now. But yeah, there you go. I think those records are flawless, and there's more coming.
He kind of is the best, but just in the band with Heidi, the Reger Sinister. That was one of my records of the year. That is a really incredible record. What I like about him is that the artwork is kind of underrated too, because the other one you released in 22 was called Obur's Lust.
Yeah.
If you compare that with the new one, they're kind of the same cover.
Yeah.
And I think it's self-portraits. I'm not sure, but I kind of portraits here and there. He takes this fluidity, and I don't know if it's per se gender or something, but he plays with these things. I saw him live at Bandkaak Festival last year, and he was in like spandex, bare-chested, forced to be regular. And he, like you said, he just went on stage, played what he needed to play, succinct, on to the point, and it's just incredible.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to be involved in the Hell Conjurer business. He's just an absolute phenomenon.
Interesting. We have two more left. We have the Necrosoft, which I was hoping to see them or to catch them live after that, but unfortunately, yeah. Speaking about Dansfield, that is a very interesting record. Once again, from the Gabstock Mayhem community. I think more Gabstock than Mayhem.
No, it's more Röden Sisterbund. So there's no. So I did the noise that Jesper says now. Röden Sisterbund. It's Zimmer from Röden Sisterbund. So he's not in Gabestock, but yeah. So again, I mean, Zimmer did that same thing where he kind of sidled up to me and said, "You know, I've got this side project you might like. I'll send it to you." And every time I'm like, "Woof." So it could go either way, but I think he's such a cool guy, and I couldn't believe it. It's like the last thing I was expecting it to be. I mean, I've seen him in his Prodigy t-shirts before, but like, I had no idea that was in him.
He's kind of the Keith Moon from, or the Keith Flint or whatever he's called.
There you go.
Yeah. Keith, yeah. I don't know. I forgot his name. Yeah, it's insane. There's Japanese intros. There's a dance feel. There's a pumping sound. There's a driving sound in that record. Yes, it's insane. I don't describe it.
The excellent promo track, promo text I wrote for that. I can't believe you're making fun of my Blood Tower one. That was beautiful. The Necrosoft one. I think it said something like you like getting distracted by staring at a mirror ball, you know, but without noticing the floor is sticky with blood, because that's what it's like. It's like you're in a disco, but like it's the moment in The Shining where all the doors open and the blood comes out. I mean, I must say it's funny that I can't say the word prodigy properly. I always mess it up. The band, the Prodigy. I think it's just like they were the most popular band at school when I was a kid. And those were the kids that used to beat me up for listening to Judas Priest, right? So I had an aversion to that sound. So it's nothing I've ever really engaged with. And around them there was this kind of big beat sound, which Russell was telling me I'm speaking ahistorically, but that's what I remember was just kind of like techno dance kind of music that was taking elements of like more rock performance because they would have a front man and a guitarist and whatever. And um so yeah, it's not a thing I know about, but obviously it's much more from my culture and history, so I'm ambiently aware of it maybe. And I don't think, to my knowledge, anyone has tried to mix black metal with that sound. And I think basically what he said was he was working on it at the height of the sort of like raw black metal phase in culture. And he was like, every week there was this another band who were like the most evil, the most raw, the most evil. Like, and he's like, it starts to become a bit ridiculous and tiresome. And he had this premise of like, what if like Satan tried to make a record and it truly had to be evil, but it had to draw people in, because it's not just about pushing people away with extremity, but actually like lulling them in with something sickly sweet. So I think, uh, you can talk about all this sort of stuff. These are nice ideas, but it really comes to fruition in the record because it is just from the moment really addicting and sort of like catchy and toe tapping and fun. But it is truly demonic. It's
All that and then that nasty croaking vocal of his, yeah, it works incredibly. And it's not just because Prodigy is the name that gets dropped in this record, and but there's actually one track that is reminiscent very much of that band. But even for example, the track we're playing now, I don't know if it picks up the miasms or something. That's just such a good riff, and the way the drumming and the entire production holds that riff back is weird and makes it kind of a dance track all in itself.
I always love it when Stan, the recording engineer from Holy Mountain, walks in when I'm listening to something. He's like,
"Why?
They've recorded this all wrong." I'm like, yeah.
You can hear that it's wrong. It's so right. That's what's cool about it. Even
Exactly.
the last, "Don't Test and Make Us Patient" part 2. That's like basically an outro, which is, it's I give it more than an outro, but it's like almost krautrock. So
yeah,
let's give it the term krautro.
I mean, again, they're not. It's a one-person project. They weren't designed to be a live band, and I've been hassling Zimmer, a lot over the last 6 months about a live show, and we'll get there. But it wasn't quite manageable for Life After Death Fest, which is tragic because he was on the lineup list right until he wasn't. So it came close.
Imagine the atmosphere in the trades hall.
But it came close. But we'll get there. I mean, we'll get there eventually. Yeah.
The last one is Gloomy Reflections, Oath of the Paladins, which undoubtedly is your record of the year for the label. Sold out kind of immediately, right?
Yeah.
Versions: the Sun and the Moon version, gold and silver. It's kind of a world that I'm not really delved into, the Questmaster entire thing. What I do like is the Crypt Faber. I adore that project from one of the guys, so that caught my attention. Sound wise, it reminded me of In Solitude from the which kept me coming back to it. It is a very, very, very addictive record. And I think, it's right up the label's alley. It is heavy metal. It's everything the label stands for combined into one. It has that kind of the sound that Dungeon Synth evolved into is also thrown in there because obviously it's those two guys. So yeah, kudos on that record.
Oh man, I'm so happy that people responded to it the way they did, because I never know. I have no gauge for these things really, except for my enthusiasm. But I started speaking to Will, maybe 7 years ago.
Oh, okay.
because I was getting Heavy Chains tapes for the Heavy Chains. That's the name of his record label, right? Someone can fact check me. But his tape label, that stuff like Crypt Vapor was coming out on, and Dracula, and yeah, what else comes to mind from that label? I just dug that label so much. So when the shop first opened and we were finding our feet with how to make it work, even back then, instantly I was drawn to making my life as difficult as possible by trying to import fucking tapes from halfway around the world or whatever, all the way around the world. And so I really liked that label. So yeah, we just started speaking that back then, and we talked about the Woe record, which was one of the guys from Taro's solo project, which again was just like a doom record. We put that out the year before, kind of in a slightly unfashionable style, but for me is like, it's kind of sounds a little bit like Trouble maybe, but like it was that kind of doom that people don't make anymore because it's not hip. But God, can that guy play the guitar? I mean, and there's not a lot of records where I think I'd care about that, but it just, that record absolutely surpasses all attempts at similarity. Like, there's so many doom records that just are so mediocre in comparison, and that record's got slept on. But I must say, like, that was not a record that sold out in a weekend, but I don't think we got many copies left. People who listened to it really got into it. So we worked on that, and then he said, look, we've done this Gloomy Reflections thing, but we want to take it in a different direction, and maybe your label is more suited for it. So I was like, I'm here. And I think that was maybe a year or so, maybe longer, before he sent me the music. So I was waiting. So every now and again I'd write and say, I'm still here, I'm still excited to hear it. And then when they finally sent it to me, I just couldn't believe it. And I knew the Questmaster stuff, of course, but I wasn't prepared for how good that record was. And then production time on my end took absurdly long for some reason. It was way longer in the pressing plant than I've got a great plant and they turn things around quick, but I think that something happened, so it was more like 5 months or something. So it's been coming. I put flyers out for it like 4 months before it really. So when it finally came out, a few people were like, "God, I've been looking for this," because of the cover. And yeah, it sold out in like a day and a half, which I'm not used to. I'm used to putting out records that are a bit more challenging and they need to find their audiences, and because we have the shop and people come in, I'm like, I can sit and talk, as anyone who's been listening still this far may have noticed, like I can talk about things at length, and so sometimes people probably just buy copies of stuff to get me to stop talking, but we've got that platform to sing about stuff we think is great, and we shout about other people's records as much as we do ours, but so I'm used to having to sell things, but Gloomy Reflection sells itself, and the response has just been phenomenal. And like, I think you described the way it sounds perfectly, but yeah, fantastic record. And the repress is ordered, so I got an email today from the pressing plant saying they've been pressed already, so they're like a month ahead. So who knows, maybe I'll be kind and send them out into the world a bit earlier. I was going to wait for the festival, but we'll see. But yeah, really, just again, proud to be in the Gloomy Reflections business.
Yeah, it reminds me of, because I'm listening to it now. Once again, I don't know if it picks up, but the second song, Into the Age of Night, is kind of reminds me of Beast Milk even. So there's a lot of stuff in here. There are parts on here that even yacht rock-esque. There are solos in here that are rival to whatever solos you heard this year. So
I love stuff that sort of uncomfortably fits sort of weirdly in between genres, and
it's a nice 80s styles of metal music.
I like that you picked up the In Solitude thing, and a lot of people have been talking about Halas as well.
That's a band I don't know too much or too good.
I mean, they're a band I really liked. Their first demo and the first record caught me, and I saw them live a few times that time. But with no disrespect to them at all, I don't think they ever quite delivered on the promise of what they could have been. It got a bit too serious in places or something, and this is Gloomies is a fun record. You know, it's not taking itself too deadly seriously as well. So I think that helps it. So I think it's sort of, it delivers a bit more on the promise, but that's no shade on Hallis. I mean, they're a fantastic band and I've enjoyed their records, and but there's just something that's not quite right for me. Uh but you never know, you know, their next record might absolutely blow me away. But
there is the promise, so maybe
exactly.
there is.
Yeah, what a year.
What a year. Yeah, we blasted through 2024. There are two in the pipeline. One is Vacuous in His Blood, which will be released on the festival, I guess.
That's not my release though.
No, it's but yeah, I've seen them perform live at Live of Death's 2024, and the presence of the singer alone made that band for me. He is just an absolute stonewall of a singer, man.
I gotta be careful what I say now. Joe started coming in the shop when he was like 16 or 17, and he was one of those kids that kind of break your balls a little bit. But you know, part of the important thing about running a record shop is treating the youth well. Funny enough, two kids in school uniform came in and tried to buy a CD today. I sold them the bastard Mycosis CD, and I'm pretty sure it's going to change the entire course of their lives. But Joe was one of those kids who would come in and just hang. We used to have a sofa in that old store, like a couch, and he would just sit on it for like an hours. But you know, yeah, I would say he's now become a very dear friend, you know, and he spends a lot of time in the recording studio downstairs. He works in the shop on occasion. He's kind of floating shop guy and just a general decent mascot for us all. We love. Joe's the best, man, and on stage just something else. Um, and the whole band are incredible. I mean, every one of them incredible. And
But it just they opened the festival and it set the pace. It was just like, okay, let's dig in because there's going to be something.
they didn't open the festival. You turned up late, but they did have a pretty early slot.
Oh, Blood opened the festival. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah, that's all right. But they did have an early slot because they were kind of hometown. They were helping me out a bit by playing. This year they're playing again, but they've got a proper spot, and it's their second album. The first album was a much more like death doom record that we're all familiar with, and again, a band not ready to rest on their laurels, and they've pushed this record into a lot of different directions. And I think maybe some people won't want to go there with them, but they'll, you know, you can't wait for people to catch up all the time, you know. And I was very happy to be there for the recording, not all of it, but I can pop downstairs and get to hear it through its mixes and processes, and you know, Joe writing lyrics and all that stuff, and just to see it come out as amazingly as it did. It's really not. It's really special. It feels nice to get to be a part of that process, especially if you're a dork like me who was never burdened with talent in any way or shape or form. So for me, I just appreciate this stuff, and so to get to be on that side of things is really fun for me. And they're just absolutely smashing it. And then to be, you know, to do the deal with Relapse, to get, you know, they've got booking agents and all this stuff. So I think there's nothing stopping them being a huge fucking deal. And I think this album's going to do really well, find its audience. And we got this special colorway that you can only get from us with the Obi strip that, you know, looks pretty fucking cool. And so, yeah, anyway, so there's going to be copies of that at Life After Death. I've hidden some specially, but yeah, sold incredibly well. So that's great.
Last thing I wanted to highlight is the let's see, The Devil's Gateway with Shreds of Life. There are two tracks on this thing that are kind of different in how they sound. I heard the Urge to Kill first, and it kind of reminded me of I Hate God on 45, but with Emil and the Sniffers on vocals, something like that. It is once again a sound I didn't expect from, but that's why I said adventurous in the beginning, because it's always a twist on when you see the cover and what comes out. Local bands or?
No, again, Finnish, and Hari from Halkandra is on drums. And he came to me with that one saying, can you think of a label that would want to put this out?
What a question.
Because I think they wanted a British label. And then we went to Brad Boatwright, who masters a lot of our stuff, who has mastered some pretty big crust and grind records in the past. So I knew he'd get the sound. And and really, in some ways, it's like every time a Finnish band says to me, we're making this type of music, and you go, okay. I mean, you're not. You're trying to, but because you're Finnish, you've weirded it all up. It's gone through your sort of strange. Someone told me that the Finnish are incapable of making music that isn't at least somewhat psychedelic, you know. And I think there's a truth to that. And so it's there. It's like a Finnish appropriation of a sort of British crust sound, death crust, bands like Axeman and Axe Grinder, sorry, and Amoebics, and you know that kind of era, which I don't know holds a special place for me, of course, and obviously for them, and then with a focus on sort of like eco issues, which I think is really interesting for a band like that to take on, animal liberation, and they went really quickly from being this two-piece. I mean, they've put some other stuff out. One of the things they put out was on a tape label from here called Natural Sciences, which is a great label, and but it was all kind of a little bit like not demos or something, but I don't know. It didn't seem fully formed, and they were a two-piece. And then now they're a full band, and although the full band on the record, they're going to start playing live as a full band. They look cool. You can see it on our YouTube. So I think that's going to be great. I'm super excited. Again, I'm not sure quite who wants this yet, but a good sign is that Sophie, who works in Crypt, has been listening to it on repeat. So we got the test presses in today, so that's great. It's actually one of 5 releases that are going to come out at Life After Death. Yeah, so we've got a new Hal Conjurer.
Yep.
This is an exclusive. We have Devil's Gateway. We have Spife has done an LP for us, who is a mercurial, another one of these dungeon synth oddballs who's kind of making like Jethro Tullish, weird folk, neo folk dungeon synth.
Okay.
Record's great. I'm super excited. I'm just gonna move over to my spreadsheet quickly because I'm old. And what else? We have a new tape from Queedweg, who you talked about earlier. So that's 4, I believe, or maybe. Maybe I'm counting the Gloomy Reflections repress. And then we have Scimitar. We've got their debut album coming out as well, who are a Danish band.
You cut away for a second. The band got lost.
Oh, sorry. So did you hear me say Queedweg?
Yeah.
So new Queedweg tape. And then Scimitar, who are a Danish band formed out of a few different bands. They're kind of super group, but it's a lot of the ashes of Slegd, who are, one of my favorite bands from a few years back, with Shamla on vocals, who has her own band Shamla, who their last album came out on Svart. And again, they were one of those bands where I might have been a bit too enthusiastic when they put their first demo out. I was like bugging them, and they were a bit like, dude, slow down, back up. So I apologize for that. But I was super excited because Sham has these incredible vocals, reminiscent of bands like Jekstoff, and Devil's Blood. There's a lot of Devil's Blood in there. And then, you know, Slegs were a band, you know, fantastic record. And then Sleg were a band I was into from really early days. And yeah, so the fusing of those two things for me was so exciting. And then the demos were great. I've put on a couple of live shows, and now we've forged a relationship where I'm not being so desperate, and so that's gone to press, so that'll be ready as well. So they're playing again. They'll be playing. So I'm very excited for that. We've done this like nice gold foil version. It's going to be beautiful.
Beautiful. I need to save up. I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can throw in my cheat sheet. We have blasted through the entire catalog. We are almost at an hour and 15. So I was going to go down memory lane and talk about Life After Death, and then do the second part, Life After Death, for this year. But let's condense it a bit, because it's maybe not necessary to rehash the entire festival. To say it was the weekend of the year still, for me and for a lot of people, was actually, it's not hyperbolic. It's actually felt like coming home, even though it was a first festival. The venue was incredible. There was carpet everywhere. The bands were top notch. Good food, good people, good drinks. So to see it go into the second edition was, I mean, God's gift, actually. And thank you for that. The lineup are there more bands this year than last year?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
we have 2 stages both days.
Okay.
Because the first year someone booked the upstairs on the second day for their birthday party.
That was incredible.
And I really wanted it on that weekend, and I don't know.
I had a piece of cake on that birthday party.
It seemed like a good idea, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, 2 stages, 2 days is a lot. Whereas now I know I can do it. So yeah.
How did you experience the festival, the first one?
I was like a hallucination. I mean, again, because I'm so lucky to have so many great people working with me, it was wildly smooth. I mean, I was waiting for it to be a nightmare, and everyone
Yeah.
kept saying, Russell, God bless him, who's like he's my war chief, for like the 6 months, maybe 8 month build up. He was like, I'm not having anything to do with this. This is a terrible idea. You're gonna lose money, and you're gonna it's going to be so stressful and whatever. And the closer we got, the more he would slightly put in. And he'd been involved in organizing some like All Tomorrow's parties, some of the most legendary big music festivals in the UK in recent
Okay.
decades. So he knows what it is to do these things. He brought Earthhouse to the UK for the first time for an All Tomorrow's parties. You know, I mean, like he's seen it, right? And then that first day of the festival, he came up to me and went, "Oh, this is the only time he's ever said this to me. I was wrong. This is great."
So smooth sailing after that.
But yeah, it was like the venue is incredible. Walthamstow Trades Hall is like an old trades union hall that's been there for 100 years, and they kind of have that real spirit of like British sort of like pub life, but with the community's element to it, and the beautiful brown curtains on the stage, and cheap beer, which everyone liked, and pool tables, and so it's a cool spot. And I'm a member, and Dean, who is in charge of the events there, is great and has a really interesting music background. Claire, who runs the place, is incredible. And so it was just like, and they'd never ever put on a metal festival before, or a metal gig before, right? So they're not, it's not their thing. So apparently some people were a bit unsure whether it was a good idea, but they acquiesced and let me do it. And then I didn't know this until recently, but they actually ran out of beer on the first day because everyone drank so much.
I can't imagine. Sorry.
So they had to like get a taxi and drive to a brewery and fill it up. So they love us after that, because we officially drunk the most they've ever had drunk
Yep.
in a weekend. So that was good. Made them lots of money. And then they didn't know the Danish were coming. That's the thing. And yeah. I mean, it was just like, and then from the sound crew to everyone was incredible. So my job really was just to be like, that's the next band, that's them, and then get them and say it's you, and yeah, and then just enjoy it, man. I mean, I just had the greatest time. It was like putting on a party, and all my
Yeah.
friends came and all my favorite bands played. And I wasn't sure I could do a second one because I was like, that was perfect.
Yeah.
Everything was perfect. So it was a bit of a struggle at first starting to get the lineup ready for the second version because I was kind of like, I don't know, it's gonna have to be real special to work. And I think special we've got to special now, so I'm pretty happy.
It's special in the sense that I pride myself on being an eye in the underground and looking for new bands, and I have to admit that 50% is new to me. Never heard of it in my entire life. Now, that was also the case on the first build, because if you look at the upstairs hall, I kind of missed entirely just because of the fact that it was kind of overlapping with the other stuff. I saw Victorian Spectre, got a few minutes of Kudwig and stuff like that, but there were bands to discover, and it was a long time that I had the feeling at a festival, oh, okay, there's some new stuff here, like from Incubate festival ago, that you can actually go into a building and then discover new music. That's, I hope to have the same feeling in the second one, but I'm pretty sure I will. The prepped thing was choose 5 bands for to highlight from the second festival, but I think that's maybe a lot since we are already closing in on over an hour. Can you give us some of the highlights for part 2?
I mean, undoubtedly the thing that when it fell into place for me is a massive deal was Slutet. I mean, I'm sort of still pinching myself that that's going to happen, but I booked them maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago for a festival in Sweden. And oh yeah, well, I know when it was because it was 2020 because it got cancelled because of COVID. So, and then just coming out the back of the last festival, I was thinking, yeah, they would be my like band to have play, and I thought, so I just wrote him a message because we've been speaking on and off for a while, and I just said, look, if I would kill myself if you started playing live just out of nowhere and I hadn't asked you.
Yeah.
So
because there were rumors that they called it quits, but there were rumors that they were going to play live, or they
well,
just
I hadn't. I think those rumors came later,
right.
I think because I asked a long time before,
Yeah.
so I don't think those rumors had surfaced yet. But I was like, so I said, just in case you were thinking of playing live, like I'm doing this festival and I'd love you to be there. And by my surprise, I mean, he wrote me a really long message back. And to sum it up, at the end, it just said, it's something we regret that we never did. And so I have to say, the cock is not entirely flaccid. So I was like, okay, that gives me something to work with.
The wizard is listening.
So it's a typical Slutet reply, and so we just kept the communication, and it just kept moving bit by bit by bit, and really we did a run of t-shirts together, and in somewhat that was to pay for some equipment and get them sort of ready, and they went in and rehearsed, and they were like, it was great, it was really great. And so I think stuff started leaking a little bit then, and I think Danny from Goworks might have sort of pre-announced it before I kind of got the chance, but this is good because a lot of people listen to Danny. So but yeah, I mean, that's a big deal for me. I mean, they really truly are one of my favorite bands of all time. So to have them play the festival is going to be incredible.
I think for a lot of
I think for a lot of people. I mean, I said, you know, I think they're one of the bands that people will travel for. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to want to be there for that first show. So that is undoubtedly a huge one. Really excited to see Boston Mycosis because it's going to be their first show. You know, we love doing bands' first shows. That's an important one for me as well. Is doing that. I don't know why, but like I think like 7 bands played their first ever show at the last one. So it is a big deal. I'm really excited for all the crew bands. So all the bands on Crew Records. So Fleckentarn, Vorian, Lila Ija, that Electric Doom synthesis. That's going to be really interesting because I liked also that's another thing I really enjoy, which is like tapping into a scene and like bringing a little cluster of bands together. That's been really cool. There's a ton of people upstairs that's going to be exciting, making all sorts of noise like Bride. I'm looking at my list now. Helm is another exciting one. Again, like he's a guy who makes like electronic music that is kind of does seemingly incongruous with what we're doing, but he's so rooted in underground metal in terms of his habits of listening. I've spent a lot of time talking to him about it, so I think he's really well placed. Pussies is going to be wild. That's going to be a show. I'm excited for that. Oxenus is going to be great because like that dude's wild, and I've been again talking with him for years, so good to finally meet and get him over. Let's say Scimitar as well. You know, they're going to be wild. So man, I don't know. I mean, there's no one I'm not excited about. Weathered Crest is great. Spife is going to be a trip. So I mean, literally, I'm just reading out the whole list, but
Yeah.
I can't really highlight 5, but I can try not to say too much about each one. But for me, I think everyone brings something slightly different, and I was trying to put in a bit more of like how would you say it? Like shifting the sort of tone quite a lot from band to band, so that we're not getting too much like wall of this, wall of this, wall of this. I mean, you know, there's so many festivals I love. This is my festival, so I get to do it my way. Sometimes when I go to places where it's black metal, but you know, I'm sure for some people that's great. But for me, I kind of zone out. Or if it's all dungeon synth all day or something like that. So I really just love that that rhythm of change. So there's everyone's going to bring something slightly different, and we'll see. You know, I mean, there's so many unexpected things last year. I mean, you know, I my brain goes back to Midoran last year all the time. I mean, that was like face achingly incredible. Like I was just hurting from smiling and
saw that at Zorfest this year,
yeah.
and they got even tighter.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was the closing band. I know that for sure.
yeah. So I mean, but I'm equally excited for just the people and the situation really, and the food's back. Same. This time with French fries. Uh, yeah. Actually, funny enough, the guy who did that was like, "Shit, I'm gonna open a burger place because this is great." So he has. So now he's like legitimately making that food all the time. So he's got it. It's 10 times as good now. And yeah, we've got some weird people selling weird stuff on stalls. What else is going on? It's cool. It's going to be a scene, man. I'm really excited for it, and I just hope as many people come and enjoy it as last time, because the feedback was incredible.
Yeah, it feels like it's bigger on all fronts, and it's still the same trade hall. I hope it can keep keep it all inside. Actually, with the energy, but
I think there'll be a few more people there this year. They've allowed us to expand the capacity a bit, not massively, but a little bit. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, no, I mean that place is real special. It adds an element to when I started going to Muscle Rock Festival, which is just this magical place, right? And people would just walk around smiling the whole time, which is unlikely for a metal fest, right? Everyone was kind of enchanted by this place. And I always thought if I was going to do a festival, it was going to be somewhere that had the same affect. And Trades was the same, but everyone would walk in and have a slightly different reaction. Like all the Danish kids walked in, they're like, "Yeah, we have places like this, we get this," and other people were like, "What is this mystery land?" You know. So and that's the great thing about bringing people from all over the world. And we've got people coming up from the US and Denmark and Finland and France and whatever. So people coming from everywhere, and yeah, shit, it's really soon.
Really soon. we kind of done booking everything, so we're kind of set to go. Now
Yeah,
it's just
well, there's tickets left, so if anyone's thinking about it, it's time to do it. Because there won't be tickets left for long. But we've opened the day splits now as well for the One Day Warriors. But the weekend is the way to do it. But yeah, I can't wait for everyone to rock up and to enjoy it again. And then I think the thing is to try and start working on the next one after that real quick. So yeah.
will there be overlap between bands since you have two
No.
stages? No, okay.
No, there wasn't last year either. We kind of try. I've also got a habit of trying to keep the set times short. I like bands playing for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I don't. I maybe I've got problems, but I don't want to stand and get bored watching a band I love. So upstairs, the sets are particularly short, like 20 minutes. I think that's why not everyone got to catch them, because you go out for a smoke and you've missed it. But that's cool. Keeps things moving. And then so while the changeovers are happening downstairs, there's a band upstairs. And it upstairs is a bit more experimental, noise into dungeon synth. And then downstairs is more bands, but actually there's quite a lot of weirdo solo stuff downstairs as well. So it should be mixed. And then yeah, you should. So if you're real hardened, you can see everything.
We'll try. I think it's all as good as everything last year. There are a few things I missed, of course, but because it's a lot of bands and you have to eat sometimes. But yeah, I think I saw most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, promises to be a great weekend once again. We're doing the Life at Black Occult combination, so London's a place to be for. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the thing on the Sunday as well. Yeah. I mean, next year maybe I'll do 3 days if I'm feeling bold. But I thought about doing something that was kind of more like esoteric or something on the Sunday. But we'll see. Maybe next year if I'm feeling brave. But 2 days is good. And I worry about that. I never know what the right shape is: Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. Because if you do on Friday, a lot of people have got jobs and stuff. But on Sunday, people have got jobs on Monday, and they don't want to get home. They can't stay out so late and have fun. So I never quite know the shape. So personally, I think Friday, Saturday is the best way to do it. But
last question for my purpose and my trip: will the crypt be open the day after?
oh shit! So what day do people want it open? Sunday.
Yeah, we're coming over Sunday for the pilgrimage, but it was.
I will do my best. Yeah, I'll do my best to make sure it's open. Yeah, I'll try and get that lined up. That was a bit of an error last time. We'll definitely be open on the Thursday. So some people are coming early and they want to see that. So definitely be open on the Thursday. It's not all about you, man. There's people watching. So if you're coming, there's definitely be open on the Thursday. I will make the White Filth promise that we will be open on the Sunday as well. That's a good call for sure. Yeah. But half the stock is still going to be at the festival.
It was a bummer, but it was.
Sorry, say again.
It was a bummer that it was closed, but it was very understandable that it was closed after such a weekend. So
yeah. Thank you for understanding.
We have reached the hour-and-a-half mark. The last thing we kind of prepped was to go into your top 5 of the year last year, not Crypt's releases.
How long is this supposed to be? Is this good? Is this a normal length?
Lengthwise, yeah, it's okay. The talks normally go into the 2 or 3 hours, so we can do whatever you want to do. If you're feeling like doing a top 5, we're doing top 5. If you just want
to. Sure.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get my laptop out again next. I gotta remind myself what I said, what I liked. It was a funny year for a top list in a way. I feel like I promised myself at the beginning of every year that I will make it as I go.
Yeah, No, that never happens.
Oh, yeah, but it's my job, you know. I should be able to do this, but I don't seem to manage to be able to do that for some reason, which is dumb. I look back at my list that I've made. I'll put one thing in January and then I'll forget for the rest of the year. So it's done in retrospect, which I think is always a problem because you just don't quite see things the same way. And I'm sort of like digging here through all my records here. I'm going through the shop. I'm looking at my Bandcamp things. I'm looking at my iTunes or whatever it's called these days, you know, and like I felt like I kind of never quite got definitive, but it gives you a gist. 5 things to pull out. Okay. It was a big year for Ixiel Records, man, and this is an important message to your audience. If you're not on the Ixiel train yet, what are you doing? Like, they are one of the best labels out there because yeah, okay, all right, you know, fucking hell, sell some bad records that you already own and then buy some because there's so few labels that are as like I mean, I think some of the ways you describe Crypt, which I take your compliments, are much more well earned by a label like Ixiel, who again, like, you never know what you're getting with their releases. Every time they send me the list, the wholesale list, I'm like, right, here we go. Russell gets super excited. It's like his favorite label. And I love labels where not all of it's for me. I mean, I don't want to like every release. So I don't want to think every release is good or fine. I want there to be releases that I absolutely love and ones that I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't get it. And maybe I'll catch up eventually or whatever. And Ixiel just keep throwing surprises. The Nogbold's Palace releases on Ixiel this year, which are technically reissues, but whatever. No one had ever heard of them, you know? Those records are wild. And it was that, you know, one of them you could hear on YouTube, one of them you couldn't. You know, one of them is vinyl only, like it does not exist digitally, maybe now, but it didn't exist digitally at all. And it was just like it posed the very important question that a lot of people have been asking over the last few years, who's what if Joy Division were a black metal band? But it's got shades of like Necrosoft sound in there as well, but it's from years ago, you know, way before like all the Austrians came up with this sort of, you know, post-punk black metal crossover sound or whatever. It's really like a forebearer to all of that great stuff, like Peace Vaults, who I love to bits, and you know, so I was blown away by those Nogbold's Palace records. And there is the let's see if I can even begin to say it out loud. Ardolf or the Bar World 3 LP thing, which is the same band, but like whatever, man. You look at Excel Records, it's that also real excellent. And one of those records where you're like, okay, it's a 3 LP. I'm never gonna listen to this. But when you actually sit down and it's really worth your time. That's fantastic. That's on Russell's list. But yeah, so No Bolts. What else did I really like? This might be not for everyone, but the new Opium Warlords records, who, you know, I've been following everything Albert Witchfinder's done from Reverend Bazaar onwards, and he is a consummate creative lunatic, and he's in Pussies, and but Opium Warlords has been his solo project, and he suddenly came out with this like insane industrial record called Strength, which is on Svart, and it, I don't know. You got to listen to it. It's fucking really unusual. And again, maybe I think sometimes like the problem with working, it's like if you worked in a sweet shop and all you had was sugar all day, like, and someone came in with a candy that was covered in like chili and I don't know, fucking like banana flavor mixed with dog shit or whatever, like some weird thing you'd never had before. You'd be like, this, you know? So I think sometimes working in the record shop, like the things that really get my attention are the odd, that was a terrible metaphor, the odd things that stand out. But this is maybe that. Again, the Lila Ija stuff I really dug. Dark wave synth pop with a little touch of black metal sort of sound in there from Crew. Um, wow, what a weird list I've got this year. I put the Green Mist anthology on there because in some ways it's the most like raw black metal-y stuff, but totally bonkers. But again, it's not really a 2024 release, but that anthology was the one I listened to the most that came out this year. I don't actually own it. It's one I've listened to digitally. Um Shit, how many was that? 4?
4-ish, I guess.
And I think I got to say the Sunset record that was on Ixiel as well. That I listened to a lot because it was a bit like a raw black metal album. If raw black metal was death metal, I don't know. It's like a raw death metal record. It had all the aesthetics of black metal, but it's not really black metal. And just blown out, blissed out, long, deep listening. And it was one of those records where if you really listened, it really paid dividends. But you'd see, I'd be in the shop and would be like, "This is great." I put it on, and people were like, "It's just fucking noise," because you couldn't do it in 30 seconds. You had to really engage. But there's got to be. I'm a bit disappointed with my list this year, only in that I feel like there's 30 more things that were probably great that I kind of spaced out on. And I think a lot of that is due to how busy the labels got. And the truth is, when you're listening as a label, you listen so much more like intently to those releases you're working on. My true list for this year are the 11 records we released. I mean, every one of those I'm super engaged in. So I think in some ways it's kind of harder. I'm gonna have to learn next year how to sort of like section out my brain a bit better. But yeah, how were any of those crossovers for you, or your list is completely separate?
No, because I make my list just because, like you said, you pick from here, you pick from there. I just, when I do the list, I have to have them in collection as a physical object just to show them. That is one thing. And the Axial records, I love the record. I've been following since the beginning. But the problem is, once these records arrive here in Belgium, they are like marked up so much that they are actually too expensive to buy when you have my kind of habits or
Yeah.
your. So I try to pick here and there. I think I don't even know what the last one was I got from them, but my focus is still on those kind of labels. It's just more digital than just purchasing all records.
Yeah,
Because in the beginning,
understandable.
the Nixial drop was like 5 records. It was kind of manageable, but now it's like 7 here, 8 there, 10 there, triple
I
records here.
think he's gonna start scaling back down again because I think it's been a lot for him. But the uh get
Adventurous.
those Nog Bowls Palace records, they're gonna be worth having. But the I think for some reason making records in America is really expensive.
Probably, but it's also imports that kills it, because
Yeah.
it's not weird that our last talk was 3 years ago, around the time Brexit kind of happened, because it's insane getting records from the loops I have to go through just to get stuff. It's
It's like we're still, it's a boot stamping on your head. It just like it is so draining, the whole Brexit thing, and it has really killed our relationship with Europe. I don't mean as a country, I mean like for Crypt, because we used to be the majority of our orders used to come from Europe, and now we still get a lot, but it's more stuff that you can't get anywhere else, so you have to come to us. Those more casual purchases aren't happening so much. I mean, logistically it's changed in that like now you pay your taxes up front and you shouldn't have any problem in the border and there shouldn't be any extras and it's all could be smooth now, but the prices of everything now, the cost inflation is what's really killed things. So it's hard with records, man. I mean, I never thought it would be normal to be putting out records for 40-45 pounds, but that is the norm for some imports now.
yeah,
And then some people still managing to sell me records cheap and I can then sell them on for cheap. I mean, my profit margin like is the same for everything I sell. And I see a lot of people in like forums and whatever talking shit on certain labels and distros, saying, "Oh, they put up this, that," and I think people really don't get it, and it's a shame that people can be a bit ungenerous because I tell you, most of the time, people are applying the exact same margin to everything,
Yeah,
It's just some records are fucking expensive now, and it's really hard to make money selling records. So
yeah.
you
I
know,
see people shitting on you, for example, like yeah, for records being expensive, but it's the reality. It's just import. It's expensive material, expensive everything. Everything is expensive. So why not
yeah. I
records?
mean, like I say, like we don't charge more for hype records. We charge the exact same margin that we would charge for anything else. But you got to remember, we've paid the hype prices for wholesale, and we've paid for the shipping and whatever. And then yeah, we've got physical space, so we have to keep the lights on. I have to pay wages. You know, we've got a lot of mouths to feed. So the margin for records is razor thin. You know, so keep buying T-shirts from us because it's much better. We should be a T-shirt shop, really. Scarves, man. I'm just a scarf shop now that happens to sell records. I sold like 200 scarves this winter, so you know it's like it helps keep us going. But really, truly, all that stuff really helps. And then like um, you know, but it's a funny business that I don't think a lot of people on the consumer side of it always understand. And I think if they did, they one would be a bit nicer, but two, they would stop because what you also find out is that when you are older
Mhm.
and you have thousands of records that take up your whole house, and then you're like, I'm going to sell them all, and they're all worth so much money because I've got all these great rare records. You'll find out that it's going to take you 30 years to sell them all one by one, or you're going to sell them to a shop and they're going to offer you not very much money. So yeah, it turns out it was not an investment, and your kids are not going to like your music. So um uh it's yeah, but yeah, whatever, it's a folly. You got to enjoy doing it, you know.
If you're in it
When
for if you're in it for the building up your pension, this is not the way to do it.
what a trip, right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, God almighty. But there you are.
We are me and my cousin are coming over. We're going to do I think tomorrow we're going to do a listen through every artist on the bill, so we know
Oh,
what's
killer.
just because literally more than 50% is unknown to me. The Slutet, of course, is a big. What the hell is going to happen to the poor old trades hall? Question mark. But we'll see when we get there. Yeah, I think we come to a natural conclusion. There we go. There's a cat.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, well, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I mean, yeah, I hope people can get past the first hour of me talking about our releases and get
This
to the
is a
festival part. But if you haven't got a ticket, now's the time to do it because we're starting to, you know, get on the other side of things in terms of availability. And I know I'm going to get so many emails the day before being like, "Is there room for one more?" And the thing about Trade Tour, which is incredible, but it is limited. There's only so much we can do space wise, and so. But I have no intentions of going anywhere else because I really feel at home there. So
yeah.
it would behoove you to get your tickets in now. But I just got the wristbands today. Oh, beautiful. It's little things like that, you know. It's the shopkeeper in me still. Like when I make the labels for the price guns, you know, I like making them cool and these little details is fun. But, yeah, so yeah, it's time to get involved.
Time to get going. Yeah, true. Yeah, we'll be there. That's all I can say for now. Everything is booked. Everything is set. So the Belgian contingent will show up once again.
Good to hear it.
Never apologize for talking about records for an hour or for over an hour. That's why we're here. That's what this channel is for. If you don't like it, please skip it. Charlie, thank you very much. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank you for the festival. Thank you for the releases. And I'll see
Thank
you.
you, man. Yeah,
Very-
nice to speak to you again. Won't be
Cheers.
so long before next time, I promise. We can do a debrief maybe after the festival.
That's maybe good. We'll talk about the festival in deep. Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
See you soon, man. Peace.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Spend my time dying. Oh, now tell me how. Life after death.